Good evening, everyone. Welcome to Mini RPG of the Week. It's edition number 6. It's a very exciting day for Trackmania altogether because we've made it to 6 editions and because there's nothing else happening in terms of Trackmania right now. I'm still joined by the image of a dog, no actual dog this week, but look, we're still looking forward to a lot of action, and the dog is at home, I'm sure, sleeping peacefully or causing absolute terror for someone, so you don't have to worry, she's still fine. No, pay no attention to the moving dog, it's still not real, it's just an image, I promise. We're looking forward to this week. It is the 3rd week of May, which means that we do not have either of our usual resident mappers for it. We're back to a guest mapper for this week and for next week as well. This week's guest mapper is, as you may have seen on the loading screen, going to be Techno Crash, and it is, I believe, his first time ever producing a map at all, so we're excited to see what he's managed to pull out. We have some interesting notes on it, and I'm looking forward to seeing some precision jumps, some alternating high speed, low speed is what we've been promised, and that's definitely going to be interesting. It sounds like he's gone for a fairly stylized approach to the map as well, and all of that adds up to potentially something exciting in terms of what we can see these players do. And I think more than anything, one of the things that could happen with a slightly more experienced mapper is seeing players find ways to push the boundaries in ways that maybe the mapper wouldn't expect. We'll see, has Techno Crash managed to actually patch up every single potential shortcut, every single potential hole in the map, as it were, which is not to say that there's anything wrong with it being a first map. It's just you know, sometimes when you're not as used to doing these things, you'll leave a little bit more room for these more experienced players to find a little bit of leeway, to break the maps in ways that maybe weren't particularly expected. As always, the players will have kind of 15 minutes to maybe figure out if they can break the map in those ways. It'll be a 15-minute warm-up, followed by the Cup of the Day style knockout rounds that we all know and love so much, all the way down from however many players we start with, 4 eliminated at a time until we get into our top 16, at which point we will eliminate 2 players at a time, down to the top 6 will be 1 elimination, all the way into a finals when we have just 2 players left facing off, and we will decide who the winner is for Mini RPG of the Week edition number 6. There's been some close battles so far in weeks 1 through 5. Those final rounds have occasionally been decided by crashes. More often than not, they've just come down to pure pace at that point of the competition as well, though. Consistency has been a deciding factor. We've seen some players such as Black Puss, who I have spotted in chat there already, shows that consistency can get you as far as the top 10. You don't necessarily need to be one of the players challenging for the top 4 on pace to get into the top 4, top 5, top 8. He's been 8th 2 weeks running now as well. And it's been true for a couple of other players as well. Players who really aren't threatening those top 8 times on the server are managing to break top 10s just through sheer consistency. When faster players are risking it a little bit too much in rounds where they don't need to, crashing out of the competition as a result, it leads to some particularly exciting rounds. It leads to some big names falling out. That is the joy of the Mini RPG format. It's always a little bit of risk. There's always decisions to be made about exactly how much you want to risk on every single turn. We should be getting into the map here sooner rather than later as we tick over past the 7 o'clock mark. Here we go onto the map. We're going to be looking at Triangle Rush, maybe, potentially not. Oh, couple of transitions, we're back to my face. We'll be onto the map sooner rather than later, I'm sure. And I've already given away the name of the map. It is Triangle Rush, and I've been promised triangles. That's really the only thing I know about this map, I tell a lie. I have some other notes about the map as well. We'll get to see how accurate they are. And yeah, true to form, there's a few triangles as we jump straight on into it. As we said, Techno Crash's first map, and we are looking forward to seeing how this one does look so far. He's aimed for kind of a mix, as he says, of low speed and high speed. Maybe some awkward transitions for these players as well. Looks like to me a little bit of pathfinding as well. Definitely some awkward transitions here for Tsunami as he explores his way across these platforms. And it's going to come down to the question of exactly how much do you want to risk on platforms like that. Let's follow on board with Tsunami as we go on a little bit of an adventure trying to find our way through. Tsunami down. It's a wall ride into a dirt, into a transition, keeping speed there. That's a difficult first trick to start off with here for some of these players, and it's wet wheels as well. Some players going very high there. Tsunami this time manages to get up, and it's a 360 into it. That is a stylish start to this map. I could see that definitely being tough for some of these players for sure. Tsunami going to continue to practice here on this first turn. The dirt wall ride maybe giving you a chance to dry off those wheels as you go for that 360 into this next turn. Taking it wide, a drift into that one. And then a nice tight drift, taking speed through the next one. It's not too much of a speed check, but it is a little bit of one, and it's an aim check as well on the next platform, as you need to make sure you're there. It's a hard turn into this one. It's going to be a tough map. To Da saying it in chat already. Sick map. it's going to be a little bit of a skill check there, I say, for some of our players. I think some of these lines looking a little bit tougher already than we've maybe seen in previous weeks, but there is the option for hard and easy lines. The option for the hard line here, taken by Tsunami, lands in the water, and then it's a slow drive down to the end. You get the reactor boost to get you out of the water, straight onto the dirt to dry the wheels, but with the reactor boost down, I smell potentially some shenanigans, potentially a little bit of a bug slide or something there to get you around that 90-degree turn, that hairpin, excuse me, one turn a little bit quicker, and then it's climbing up these triangle platforms, through another one, down a little bit, take speed if you can, and the question then, how much speed do you want to take? The landings here are awkward, and hey, maybe that's a sign that some players will struggle with this map more than you might expect. That's a very good time. Tsunami taking a 3rd place on the server. But I think what I want to say is, yeah, when there are lines that don't flow, when there's things you wouldn't expect on an RPG map, things that don't just naturally transition from one to the next, some players struggle a little bit more than others. Some players are able to adapt, able to control the car in those awkward situations, and some, they just want to be driving forward nice and fast. They want to be making sure that they're getting all the grip available to them at all times, choosing to take as little airtime as possible, and that may not always be the correct choice here on Triangle Rush by TechnoCrash. We'll follow on board with Tsunami as he goes for another run. Currently, was sitting on the 3rd time, now down to a 5th time, as some of the familiar names rise to the top of the leaderboards. I'm seeing Tada, I'm seeing Lars, Uso, Kyle up there as well. Tarpor currently in the 9th. A couple of names we haven't seen a lot of before though. Skyzen is currently sitting in 4th, gets knocked down to 5th by Jan as I'm saying it. And Tada going for the full 180 here. Maybe no potential for bug slide shenanigans there, but I'm going to keep an eye out for something a little bit odd. That reactor boost with wet wheels straight into the dirt. It smells to me a little bit funky. It smells a little bit like cheese that's been sitting out in the sun for a little bit too long. We'll see if any of the players can get particularly cheesy with it. And Tada is showing us that, yeah, there is definitely going to be an element of just managing your speed and managing your car up over those triangle platforms. That's a tough climb up to the finish, and especially if you're behind, especially if you're in a tight race to that finish, players are going to risk it a little bit in ways that aren't natural to them. It's not going to feel good to try and force your car up that hill, and when you're under pressure in a round situation, when you need to try and force it up that hill as fast as possible, speed may become the enemy a little bit for players. I'm very excited to see exactly how that ends up turning out over the course of this map. I'm very excited for this map in general, of course. Tada looking to climb back up this leaderboard. Currently 4/10 down to where he is. Again, that's an awkward transition between these, though. That's a much cleaner one onto this one. And then this last transition you can nail. You can carry a lot of speed. The car wobbling down onto the wheel. And 2.5, nearly 3 seconds gained by Tada on that. And you can see exactly how much time is being left on the table. Even by top players in this server right now, Tada manages to improve by a full 3 seconds down to 52.5. And it is now, with 6 minutes gone in our warm-up time, to maybe start talking a little bit about what we expect good times to be. I believe the author time on the maps is somewhere around a 53-second mark. But it was said by TechnoCrash that, well, it was, he reckoned, like many of our mappers, his driving skills that produced a time like that more than anything else. It wasn't necessarily a sign of exactly how far this track could be pushed. And he does reckon that, yeah, kind of a 46, 47, maybe even as low as a 45 is something he would not be shocked to see on this map. Lars just practicing that uphill a couple of times. Interesting to see. I think that is the section that's going to cause a lot of the experienced players a little bit more trouble. As I say, it's just weird. It's just weird. This first section, though, this is going to cause a lot of trouble for players who are experienced and inexperienced alike. Interesting to see Lars not opting for the 360 that we were seeing out of someone earlier as well. Interesting to see if that is the strat that it does pay off for people. If the 360 becomes something we see a lot of towards the end, and oh, that jump, it looks so satisfying when you get it absolutely right. It doesn't really look like there's much going on in the way of a bug slide, a tight turn that gains you speed instead of losing it on that dirt and reactor boost section. But again, something that you can absolutely nail is that entire section, the tight spiraling jump up into the water, landing far enough to be almost in the reactor boost already, and from there just getting a nice quick drift around the turn. That's a 1.5 second improvement for Lars, and that again just, it looked like, came down to the climb at the end, came down to those triangles, giving him a lot more speed. Artiste going to go for this one, is going for the 360. A little bit divided among some of our top players at the moment, and I say top. Artiste, yeah, has taken top of the leaderboard, and you'd imagine with this dirt kind of 360 maneuver, it looks significantly more risky though, and it'll become risk versus reward, as these things so often do in Trackmania, and so especially in mini RPG. Are you willing to risk the fail at the start in rounds on this one? I'd be interested to see, do we see many players going for it even in round one? I mean, if you get it cleanly, it just looks so clean. It looks so fast. You can see RT saving, you know, 200ths of a second there. Immediately loses them, though 200's not a huge amount. But at the same time, we've said it before. I said it during the warm-up. Consistency is so often key in these mini RPGs of the week. You don't necessarily need to be consistently driving top 10 times on the server to get your top 10 secured. You just need to make sure you are finishing consistently fast. Just rely on other people making mistakes. For as good as some of these players are, the mistakes will come. Artis, that's a very low jump on that one, and a very low jump, even tenths of a second saved. But I think this map, almost more than any other that we've seen so far in Mini RPG of the Week, is going to continue that truism, and it's going to be absolutely true that it is not over until it's over in Mini RPG, until that very last turn is finished. With that start, with players definitely going to be falling behind across the course of the map, with the middle section, with that kind of big jump up and across into the water, and finally with the hard climb up the triangles as well. Players are going to struggle. There's going to be room for overtakes, for upsets, for big moments all the way from the first turn to the last here on this triangle map. Triangle Rush by Technocrash. We haven't actually seen anyone take the safe route just yet on this big jump. We've been following on board with some of the top players on the map, and well, they're all taking the risky way, and it's not too risky, it looks like. I mean, we're seeing them get it very consistently. And so we're not exactly sure how much time you lose by going that safe way, but I think, you know, once we get into the medal positions especially, but even into our top 10, we're not going to be looking at anyone taking it that safe way based on the level of consistency that we are seeing from these players. And there is a little bit of room to build speed into that big jump in the middle of the track as well. Jumping on board with Hazard, keeping an eye on how he does on this one. A little bit of a wall touch there. You can see players, they want to risk it on that first triangle climb after that middle section. They are trying to take as much speed as possible by going wide, but that's leading them to just into that right wall as often as not, losing a lot of speed into it. And well, it's not the end of the world, as Hazard shows us here as well. Even despite crashing into that wall a little bit, actually taking a little bit less speed into the following triangles might help you out a little bit. Might get you a little bit faster into the rest of it. Might get you a little bit higher on the leaderboard. Uso is going to go for the 360. Over jumps it maybe a little bit. See how he does compared to his PB. 2/10 down almost on it there. And while it was a clean 360, it was a little bit high. Catching the wheels on the dirt just a little bit too much. This trick, of course, one of those weird ones that you can do on dirt. You can almost infinitely climb on a dirt wall climb in TM 2020. This is not exactly that, but using that feature of the physics is how we'll word it, for just a little bit of a short trick, you know, allowing players to go for that 360 if they want. And there's a look, I've just spotted it off to the left. The safe road does take you up into the back of the water, and I'd imagine just an uphill climb through the middle there. So a little bit slower, a little bit of a U-turn that you have to take in a tunnel, but it will get you to the same place very early, and you still have to go through the water to make it. Uso on a very good run right now, currently sitting 7th on the leaderboard. Will he improve up into the last couple of triangles? Loses a lot of time as the wheels catch just below the ledge on that one, and will end up 2/10 down on the PB. The safe way on the jump, we are being told by Technocrash, thank you very much for the information, is just more of a safe way if you're forced to respawn on the jump. If you have to do a full respawn because your line isn't good, it allows you to go. It's not necessarily meant to be there, as it sounds like kind of a safe way that players should be going for the most part. And we'll take a look at it here again. If you go off left, we'll see the tunnel over there, and if you're forced to take it, you end up wrapping around up into there. And yeah, that's going to take a little while for players to get, and then we will not be seeing players take that an awful lot today, I would imagine. Uso again 2/10 down, but the wheels just catching on those triangles. They're definitely catching a few players out. I do love to see it. I love to see things that are unusual. That's one of the joys of, I think, RPG, mini RPGs, the style is forcing players to handle the cars in ways that no other style of map can get away with. Ways that feel uncomfortable, and you really get to see players that are good at handling the car in awkward situations, players that know how the physics work, players that have full car control. Art is on a very good run right now, is going to make it up. This feels like it's going to be well below. Did lose about 3/10 on that last triangle climb, but still a 5/10 improvement on their PB. Enough for second on the server as we head into the last couple of minutes here of warm-up. Last 2 minutes of warm-up time now to maybe get one last run in. If there was anything in particular that you felt you hadn't explored just yet on the map, you know, if there was an extra safe line that maybe you wanted to check out, now is the time to maybe be looking at those for the last time. Again, I think we're seeing a lot of the top players going a lot more for this 360 off that first jump. They're not really taking the safe route, but RT's proved for us just there as well that they can still fail it. That maybe, especially in these early rounds, might be worth just going for the safer line. Or maybe you use the early rounds to absolutely make sure that you are consistent on it. Continue practicing it until maybe the middle of the competition. We'll see what the choices are, because wow, if the wheels don't grip there, you're down for a slide just into the side of that quarter pipe, and it's going to be one that you see coming, but there's not much you can do about it. And it's a bit of a skill in mini RPG as well, and in many maps, the early respawn, being able to predict when things are going wrong and respawning, giving yourself as much time as possible to catch back up, to right the wrongs that have happened. And especially in this first jump, if anyone does go for the 360, you gotta be willing and able to pull the trigger on a bail sooner rather than later, as Hazard shows just there. Going to be tough. Of course, you want to make sure still that you don't accidentally DNF. That's important too here on Mini RPG of the Week. You don't want to accidentally DNF. It's not really something we've seen many players have an issue with, but we have seen a couple of DNF costing people potential positions higher in the rounds, as someone will commit Roblox death off to the side of the track there as well. God, that jump is satisfying to watch, isn't it? Lovely to see as Hazard goes up, goes around. Nice. Doesn't carry the most speed into this next section, but it really is about this first transition, and that's an alright transition into it. Hazard going to finish out one last round here as we get into the last 30 seconds of our warm-up. And I said he carried a little bit of speed. He carried very little speed at all compared to his PB. This is better, though, making that jump straight onto the flat and then up into the finish, and gained about a tenth there at the end. So definitely room for improvement, and I think we're going to see some exciting overtakes is my prediction for that last triangle carry. Last 5 seconds here on the warm-up. We're going to be straight into rounds. Of course, the first round with no one disqualifying. We will just see a nice warm-up round, all cars driving at once, and from there into our knockout stages here on Triangle Rush. One more time. Looking forward to it. Week 6 of Mini RPG of the Week. A couple of Irish names in the server. Things I love to see. And looks like about 40 odd players once again. Consistent numbers here. Things we love to see as well. And consistent names too. Lots of players that we see going through. Lots of the same players at the top as well. As well, the little pop-in loading of the TMRPG logo there, but we do get the TMRPG logo replacing the Grand League. And I mean, look, it's much more competitive here. We can say it. There's nobody watching right now. They're all over watching Virtual's Twitch rivals. It's fine. We're safe, and we're into the first round here on Triangle Rush. No eliminations this round, but maybe we'll get a sense of seeing exactly how many players are going for the 360. We're deep inside the mass of cars. We see Peeve going for it, and it looks like not necessarily a huge amount of players going for that 360, but enough of them. Fasty 30 here going for the safe road in the Irish car, and I think that's something we're likely to see, especially down in the bottom half of the field for a while yet. This jump nice and clean. Potential maybe to see someone over jump that one. It's been a little bit close, but with a release it feels like it should be safe enough for most players here. You can see as well the players shedding a lot of speed now into this first triangle transition. Maybe a little bit too much speed in Tarpor's case, and a little bit of an awkward landing, but he has managed to catch back up a little bit to the front runners here on this round. Skyzen looking to win our inaugural round here on Triangle Rush, and will do so with plenty of time to spare as Hazard catches his wheel on an edge on the way up. And a 1.5 second difference there for Skyzen, who gets a 47.9. Uso still just back practicing the start, taking the time that he can to do that here on our first warm-up round. Taking up the times in that round, it was a 47.9 that won the round, which interestingly is, you know, nearly a full second off of the best time on the server at the moment. There'll be room for improvement here in rounds, but I think more than almost any of the other maps we've seen on Mini RPG of the Week, this one is going to favor consistency. And I know it's a word I've used a lot, but it's only because I believe it. It's only because I am looking to see drivers that can be consistent here on the track, that can get these transitions as cleanly as possible. And as soon as things go wrong, because inevitably on a map like this, something will go wrong. You'll land a little bit more awkwardly than you were hoping you would. And he's seen who has the quick reactions, who has the skill to get that car back under control, start accelerating towards the next platform sooner rather than later. Into our first round on Triangle Rush. Techno Crash's map here this week. Looking forward to seeing how this one goes and seeing how many to get in this first round. I'm predicting probably, honestly, a quarter of the field gone. 10 people out in the first round. Uso will look nearly clean on that first one, but we are back with Cheetah. Few players forced to respawn here on this first jump this time. A few of them making Cheetah will have to go back again. He will not be alone in that. Is now down into 38th place, and it looks like may have finished driving for the time. Sask is going to be far too low on this jump, but well, that's an interesting line. The jump, the bounce, not good enough. Sask upside down, looking for the upside down drive. I think he could have made it to the border there. He might have made it to the checkpoint, but choosing to respawn instead. Now going for another low line. Has tried to figure out their own way across this jump. Right now, though, in the Lithuanian car, I'm not sure it's going to work out for Sask. They are still just on the border. If they can manage to make it across, they might make it, but we are getting to the point where I think the players still on the start line are going to struggle to make it to the finish line. In fact, I'd be shocked if there is any way they can make it to the finish line at this point. We are into the 40 seconds now that they have left to finish when disqualifications start to happen. There's going to be a few people dropping out at that point. You can see players like Acid down here in 30th position. 28 seconds to make it to the finish line. Should be doing so with a little bit of room to spare, but it might be a little bit of a closer thing than you'd imagine from this point. 20 seconds into the uphill triangles. Oh, that's awkward. He's going to be very, very slow. 17 seconds. It's a dash to the finish line. Acid, it's so close. You don't want to go out at this point. 13 seconds. It wasn't all that close in the end. 10 seconds to spare as we cut back. Still a couple of cars sitting on the start line, and we are going to be saying goodbye to a few players, unfortunately. 8 players. It's not quite the 10 I potentially predicted, but it is going to be a few of them. It's going to be 8. Just shy of that number. Still nearly a quarter of the field disappearing from round 1, but it'll be another 4 here. 31 players remain in Mini RPG of the Week Edition 6. And a lot of it does come down to this first jump. On board with Artis, who has been setting excellent times. And it's a nice safe jump, nice and high. Won't be the fastest to it by a long shot on this first jump. Was nearly a second adrift off the front of the field already on that. But it was safe and it got him there. SPF Toto will just clear that small little gap, but is in the danger positions. And that means there are enough players who have cleared that first jump that there will be a bit of a race to the finish line. There is room for mistakes still in the middle of this map. We see one there. Was that Nako dropping off the side? I'd have to check again. But there's a lot of players still at the back here. I think this one could come down to disqualifications. The map not all that long, and with a 40-second disqualification timer, a 50-second disqualification timer, there's plenty of room for players to get there, even if they're stuck in the middle. Even if a player like Tenchilil is stuck at the back here, it's a tough respawn right now for Tenchilil. And this is a player we usually see going pretty deep in the map, who is just struggling with this last jump across the middle right now. It's a tough respawn as Hazard, meanwhile, at the front of the field, a set of 46.5, crushing local records with that one. But we're right down here in 28th position, and this is the positions that matter. It's all nice and good for Hazard setting a local best at the moment, but T-Neck is on the brink of elimination. Has he overtaken anyone? No. Still down in 28th. The player in front is Summers, though, and Summers has crashed. That means there's room for T-Neck if he doesn't turtle, and he does turtle, and there's 20 seconds for these players to reach the line. It'll be tight from here. They could do it. They'll have to push the end. They have to be aware of the ticking clock. Summers needs to make it. He's fighting the clock as much as he's fighting the cars behind right now. Is Summers going to make it to that line? 8 seconds left. He is going to do so with 6 seconds to spare. A relatively clean end from Summers will get them there. And it means just 4 players eliminated. Good job by the field. Tenchilil, not necessarily a player we expect to see going out this early, though. Has put up big top 10 performances in previous weeks. Is going to drop out just inside the top 30 this time. Artiste. I mean, he's been an artiste on this first jump a few times now. Here he goes again. Nice and safe. We've said it, there is definitely room to go a lot lower there, and you can see it. There are players going a lot lower there. I think as we get into later rounds, you know, we're going to start seeing big gaps. We're going to see players falling behind early at that jump, and it's going to force them to risk a lot more than maybe they'd be comfortable with later on in the map. Acid stuck on the first jump for now. Yogg has made it through the map, though, is in an elimination position, is hoping for a mistake in front at this point, and there has been one. Someone has dropped down behind him. Yogg needs to just drop down into the water here and catch up with the players in front. A couple of players forced to take the safe route as well, and Yogg will overtake Efry as a result of that too. SPF Toto is now the player chasing down, and it's into the triangles, and you're hoping for someone to accidentally turtle in front of you, hoping for someone to get some very slow transitions. And honestly, Efry looks like he may have had those slow transitions. There's a few players crashing there, but I say that they've just finished the map already. Efry's right in front, and this is exactly what I was talking about. Toto tries to push hard into the triangles, maybe a little bit too hard. Has he managed to overtake someone? Was that someone who crashed out in front? It was! Achum has lost all speed, is stuck on the triangles and can't get any further. Will now reverse, but it's too late. SPF Toto has sniped away 23rd position, has managed to catch out Achum, who got stuck on the triangles. And for a second it looked dangerous for Toto. It looked like maybe the full risk was a little bit too risky, that they had kind of sent it a little bit too hard into the first jump while Efry was a little bit slow in front, and it maybe cost them their chance to overtake. But still makes it into the top 23. 4 more players eliminated. We're going to be inside our top 20 already here as we approach the half-hour mark, as we approach half 8 CEST. We'll get well down towards our top 10 by the time that 30-minute mark rolls around. This first jump, I say, ooh, you saw someone crash straight into the wall there. That's an oof if I've ever seen one. Sky's nice and high. We'll be down in 10th, 11th. Yeah, that's 10th place into that one. The first jump still catching a couple of people out. Nako back here as well. Sapphire the one chasing, but Wiz still within the top 18. Toto just behind. Hazard a long way back. The player who currently holds the local record is the player who's sitting at the back right now. Just about makes that jump. Is going to just about have enough speed to make the next jump as well. How does he look in the jump into the water? Someone did take the safe route. Hazard is into 19th. Should be up into, I believe, 18th, maybe even 17th place as he goes through this checkpoint here. Is in fact well clear of that. At least 17th place. Nefry is the player chasing as we head towards the back half of the map. As we head towards these devilish triangles. No, it's such an awkward transition. The outside of his wheel catching, that counts as a bump. He loses all speed with the accelerations penalty, and now Efry really in danger. Yogg is the player chasing. It's Valeur de Port just in front, and Corso is there. Sapphire's crashed. Sapphire's going to have to respawn. Does this give Yogg the room to get in? It looks like it. It's 17th. That means there's still room for maybe one more player to qualify as well. Tsunami there. Kazura, the last player, it sounds like, to cross the line, and Tsunami will cross in 20th position. A few crashes at the end there. Efry, Valeur de Port, Tsunami, all not quite able to make it across the line. Valeur de Port will finally manage to make it across, but unfortunately it's all the way down in a 23rd, 22nd position. And it does mean that, well, they'll be eliminated for now. As that last part, man, I'm looking forward to our top 10. I'm looking forward to our top 5 on that. Seeing some of the battles that are going to happen there as players launch themselves into it. And when you hear the car engine coming up behind you as well, risking a little bit too much to yourself of trying to stay clear of that elimination zone. Any Betty now. A player we haven't said much about yet this evening at all, but a player who tends to go a little bit deep on these as well. 13th position through that first one, and then a mistake. Drifted in too hard, too tight, got more grip than he was expecting, and will be chasing from the back at the moment alongside Uso, alongside Sapphire and Toto, and Sapphire struggling with the respawn right now. Anybody is up into 17th place, but Anybody also struggling with his respawn. Sapphire still struggling with that platform jump. Is going to try and make speed. No, is going to respawn again. Toto's a long way in front, but Toto is clipping a little bit onto this small amount of snow that just makes this turn a little bit easier, harder. It forces the players to shed speed, certainly. I'm sure they'd have opinions on whether it makes the turn easier or harder themselves, though. Hazard up at 46.9, continuing to set those sub 47 times as the Cross chases up the hill. I don't think he's going to catch Toto, and that does mean that Toto manages to hold on to a 15th position. That's good enough for top 15. Akros was 16th, and Betty goes out, and Uso, our 7th place player on the map at the moment, will drop out as well. A big name dropping. But I mean, we're getting to that point of the map as well, where mistakes are going to be more and more costly. Tarpoor realizing that, yeah, you can be very fast in that end section if you manage to nail some of those transitions, get the wheels down, really not take much airtime at all. Things can go very, very well for you indeed. Sapphire will drop out 19th place, but hey, it's inside the top 20. Things you love to see. Heading into our top 15 now. See where things can go from here. Just 2 rounds will be deep inside our top 10 as well. And unlike some weeks, our top 10 is going to feature 2 players who are being knocked out. Someone will be knocked out in 10th position. We didn't start with an even number of players. And hey, that's just good fun. That's exciting, you know? It'll be down to just 2 eliminations this round, though, and that means a little bit more breathing room for some of the players riding that elimination line. Artis not being one of them, neither is Tada, Black Pulse, Tarpor. Names that, well, they're just keeping their noses clean this week so far. I said consistency can be favoured. That's certainly proving it. I say that Tarpor is down into this elimination zone for the time being, though. He is right behind Corzo and has a little bit more speed heading into this turn. Ends up taking a little bit wider. Maybe a slightly better line heading into the snow. See if anyone catches the wall. Exotics definitely catches a lot of the wall there and will be overtaken. Acceleration penalty is killing him there on that uphill as he tries to get the engine started, get the car moving again. Will finally make it. Is still in front of Nako. Will that last? And will there be a mistake big enough in front for either of those players to catch back up now? You'd have to imagine the answer is no, as Toto will cross the line a few seconds clear of Exotics, who just lost it all on that first triangle transition in the back half of the map. Exotics and Nako will drop out 14th and 15th position. Toto has managed to keep it going. It does feel like every couple of weeks we get a player doing this. You know, they're right there on the elimination zone. They're still just managing to scrape it through every single time. And we've seen some very, very deep runs indeed from players doing that. Tenchilil again comes to mind, a player who's already gone out tonight, but he's done it before, where he manages to sit in the elimination zone and then catch people making mistakes in front by being clean through the rest of the map. That has been the name of the game so far for a couple of players. Tarpor not there. Tarpor is going to be starting from a long distance advantage if he starts at all right now. But wow, these players are managing to keep it a lot cleaner at this start. Peeve is in 12th place, but he is right on the tails of the leaders through that first jump. There's going to be a mistake here. It feels like surely. No, these players are keeping it clean. Yog off the edge, Peeve off the edge. Both of them misangling their jump towards that second platform. And you do have to keep it tight. That narrow bit of the triangle that you're trying to land on, the tip of it, as Kazuro manages to catch on the edge there. Mistakes abound here in this round as the players are struggling to get their cars across that line at the end. Sky's Nose down in 12th place. Kazuro drops to 12th. Tarpor is caught back up, but is still chasing from a very delayed start. Tarpor is trying to get this car across the line, is trying to keep alive in Mini RPG week of the week number 6. And it looks like he might have done it. Just needs to keep clean in the end. Will possibly even overtake Yog. Doesn't even need to keep it that clean at the moment then, as Kazuro is hoping for another mistake in front. Not clean into the last transition. Means no hope of catching the players in front. Means it'll be Kazuro to drop out. And Tada, who's had a little bit of a mare at the back half of that map, dropping out of nowhere into 13th position. And Sky will just about stay in. Tarpor, I think the big story of that round, starting late and managing to make it all the way up into our top 11. This will be the round that decides our top 10. We'll drop straight down to 9 though. No nice round number this time for us, as we usually tend to get. But it does mean one of the players eliminating this round will get to the Liquipedia page. The other one, well, they just won't. So, you know, a lot to fight for there. Even if you are going to be eliminated anyway, even if there's 2 of you fighting at the back. Let's see, are there any early mistakes? This is the big question now on this first jump. Look at how clean these players are, getting it so consistent in general. But it does look like, as I say that, there has been a couple of mistakes. Corzo, on the second time of asking, will manage to make it. The other players back with him, Peeve and Yog. It looks like Peeve makes it, Yog made it as well. They are a long way back, but there's 3 of them a long way back, and that means all to play for. Any of them could nab this spot, and there could, of course, still be mistakes in front of them. This map does not get easier as it goes on in any way, shape, or form. Yog is chasing Corzo, though. That is the battle to decide elimination right now. Corzo has pulled out about a second lead, but will that last? It's an awkward transition. It's an awkward transition for Yog as well. Chasing up the hill, and Yog losing it feels like a little bit more time. Corzo keeping it clean. Transition. Oh, it's bad. It's very bad. And now Corzo may have to go back to the previous checkpoint to try and keep speed. Didn't respawn, and it's just a straight dash to the finish line. Yog has better transitions. Corzo is a better to the last one, and Yog will get knocked out at the very last triangle. Oh no, that was a heartbreak for Yog, but exactly what we were hoping for on that last uphill. And it came through exactly how we wanted. Yog will still get written in as this week's 10th position. Will make it onto that Liquipedia page. But it will be Corzo who had the better transitions, the better hill climb. Maybe just a more powerful engine in the car as he headed towards those last couple of turns. It is getting exciting here at the back. And I think that was particularly exciting because, yeah, we had 3 players fail to start. And all of them then still able to contest for that elimination spot. That one safe spot between them Will we see any mistakes this time around? Black Pulse on track still for another 8th place finish. Would be a third one in a row for the admin here of the mini RPG. For the RPG server. I know what I'm saying here. Skyzen is there. Toto, that's an awkward angle. Will drift off the edge. But there's still players just in front of him. Flayers failing. Jan failing. It's going to be hard for Jan to even find the speed, it looks like, at that angle to make it over the next jump. Toto in 8th place. Hazard, the player in front, and he's going to be a hard player to catch. Toto will end up right way up. Water helping out with that one a little bit, but it does mean Hazard vanishing into the distance. Toto a long way back. A full 5 seconds to regain. And a crash like that is not going. That's probably going to be it for Toto and Jan. Jan? I don't know. I'm going to go with Jan. I'm going to assume the European pronunciation on that one. And it'll be Jan and Toto dropping out of this round. Tarpor is upside down, but do not panic. That's because the finish drops them onto that part. I need you to stop worrying, everyone, okay? It's still fine when we see cars there. I'm only saying that because I panic a little bit every time as well. Jan in 8th place. Toto will be in 9th place with the DNF. And we'll be into our top 7 here. Black Pulse manages to avoid 8th place, and he manages to do it by improving on his positions in the previous 2 weeks. Hey, pretty impressive as we head into our top 7 here. Some names that set very good times at the top of the night. Hazard has been at risk a couple of times, but has kept it clean since then. Artis, since early on in the warm-up, was impressing us. Skyzen, Lars, and Tarpor as well to kind of round out our top 7 at the moment. And Black Pulse with a very nice low jump through that one. Hazard and Tarpor fighting at the back. Skyzen, I think, maybe failed the first jump, but doesn't look like he's too far adrift of the team so far. It doesn't look like he's too far adrift of the race. Could maybe catch up. Black Pulse forced to respawn. Is now down in 6th place. At this point, you need to keep it tidy. You need to keep it fast. And you need to hope for a mistake from the players in front. We'll go around the corner. Is anyone making a mistake on that transition? It does not look like it. It looks like probably we're going to be saying goodbye to Black Pulse. We're going to be saying goodbye to Skyzen here in 6th and 7th position. Unless there's anything wild like Corzo crashing out there. And how close is Black Pulse? Is he close enough to do it? Corzo car rolled all the way over. He just did a barrel roll for style on the last uphill there. And it was not enough for Black Pulse to catch up. Still 3-4 seconds adrift of him as well. And Skyzen will be down in 7th position. Oh, a close race there, and made a little bit more interesting by Corzo, but no one able to capitalize it on this time of asking. Down to just 1 player eliminated per round as we're into the top 5 here. 25 minutes to the hour, and all to play for inside this top 5. We could try and predict our top 2 now. I mean, looking at pure times, you'd say Hazard and Lars, but I mean, based on just consistency, potentially someone like Artis coming back in, someone like Tarpor has been down at the bottom but cleaned it up a lot since then. And honestly, all 5 of these players have had their hairy moments so far. Artis having one right now, a long way back, and he has just gone for the DNF, a safe round for everyone, as they will just climb their way to the finish. Artis not particularly happy about making the mistake there, but understandable. It's fair enough, and I don't think any of the players in front, you could rely on them at this point inside the top 4 to make the mistake that would get you back in contention, get you back potentially in a way that could get you across that line inside of a top 4 either. That means our top 4 will be Tarpor, it will be Lars, it'll be Hazard, and it'll be Corzo. 50% of them will be in our finals, but we still have 2 to go before we get there. And surely at this point it doesn't come down to a fail on this first jump. Surely it doesn't come down to someone crashing it. We haven't really seen any of these guys fail it in a little while now. But it's always a possibility. It's definitely not something we can rule out at all. Is anyone going to fail it? Who's going to get the low jump as well? Because we are definitely at the point where getting a little bit of speed, getting out in front of Matter Corzo, it's only 2 tenths ahead. Compare that to the seconds gap we were seeing between 1st and 10th earlier in the competition. Tarpor, he's had a mare of it. He's going to have to go for the full respawn, and that may be all she wrote for Tarpor's week. An unfortunate way to drop out, but you clip your wheel before that checkpoint and it means you have to go for the full respawn. You have to take a lot of speed and it's going to cost you an awful lot of time. Hazard, Corzo and Lars, they'll be the podium positions for this week, but who has it in them to take it down from this position? We said it a few rounds ago, Hazard and Lars, the top 2 times on the server. Well, Corzo is currently the 3rd time on the server. These players are neck and neck, but I mean, Hazard, who definitely has the ceiling right now, almost half a second adrift of either of his rivals in terms of pure PB. Which one of them can get further and further? It's getting closer and closer. I'd be devastated, I'll be honest with you, if we see it decided by this first jump now. But it's hard enough that there still is always a chance. on board with Lars. Corzo and Hazard behind as well. Corzo now going to go for this. Quite a high jump from Hazard. His opponent's lower, and that means faster. And that's by almost 4/10 of a second. Hazard a little bit of ground to make up, but there's plenty of places to do it here on this map. Hazard trying to take a wide line there. Maybe compromises him. Not enough that he'll miss off the edge of that one. Now for the jump into this one. Nice and easy for these players. Corzo and Lars are nearly inside each other. Perfect example of synchronized diving on that one as they plunge into the pool on the middle of the map. Hazard still chasing. Needs better transitions. Maybe he's a better one than Corzo. A little bit more speed into the second one. Corzo managing to regain, but Hazard is breathing down the back of his neck right now as we head into the last uphill. Corzo regaining a little bit of that speed, but the back wheel will go. The back wheel will be off the edge and Hazard will overtake, and that's exactly what we've been talking about all night long. The pressure on that last uphill just leads to a little bit too much risk, and it is very, very tough for Corzo, but that is a top 3 to be proud of on this map, and it was a top 3 under a lot of pressure as well. It will be Hazard and Lars as our finalists, the top 2 times on the server, with Lars having set his PB in the previous round. He is on form. Hazard, probably with the adrenaline still pumping after the finish to that last round, chooses a much safer line than Lars into that first turn, and that sets the stage for this final round. Hazard chasing, Lars running, trying to get to that finish line without making any mistakes, trying to get there just that little bit faster than Hazard. One jump into the pool. Lars low, very low, will land nice and quickly, and that'll give him a little bit more of an edge. But Hazard with a very inside line. It'll give Lars better exit speed, but does the exit speed even really matter? Hazard, he clips a little bit. It'll be fine. It'll be fine. He's just a little bit compromised though onto the next one. One leads to another. It snowballs, and he now finds himself a full second behind Lars, heading into the final climb of the map, of the final climb of week 6. Lars just needs to keep it clean, keep it on track. Will do so. Hazard will be second place. He gained time in that last climb, but that's just because Lars needed to keep it on the track. Lars has done so. Lars will be the winner of Mini RPG of the Week edition number 6. Hotly contested the entire way through. What a week it has been. And what a fun map this was. A very different style, a very unique style compared to what we normally see. I think you'd struggle to call this one flowing compared to some of those that we've seen in previous weeks. And some players, well, they struggled a little bit more with it than maybe they would have liked. Getting that car back under control when things aren't going optimally, those triangles really not having an easy or consistent line across them, meant some players just not quite able to actually get those wheels underneath them when they really needed it. Corzo in that third place, man, that was a second place fight to be proud of. What a fun week that has been. Thank you. Huge shout out to Technocrash for building this map, for providing us with something so unique. First map from the mapper, and Technocrash, you have to say great job. I'm looking forward to seeing more from you. Looking forward to seeing more of your mapping in future. As always, a huge shout out to Zederate for organising the cup, Black Pulse for moderating the whole thing, and to all of the players and viewers who have joined us here this evening. I know we are obviously the most important tournament happening tonight, but you know, some of you I'm sure could have been off watching Twitch Rivals as well. Some of the players were watching in the background as well. I think Tarpor's late start in the middle could maybe be attributed to Twitch Rivals happening at the same time. But hey, we have fun here on Mini RPG of the Week, and as always, we will see you back here next week for another edition of Mini RPG of the Week. It'll be week 7, and we might have a guest caster lined up as well. You'll want to make sure not to miss it. See you then.
If all my love has got you feeling too much, it's feeling too much for you, then all my love is gonna dance with someone that shows love, not you. If all my love has got you feeling too much, it's feeling too much for you, then all my love is gonna dance with someone that shows love, not you. Just